We're all looking for the perfect escape. Some of us want to slow down, be still, and savor, while others are always in search of the next boundary to push. The perfect escape means something different to everyone, but the common thread is connecting to what brings us to another world, one that's just the perfect amount of away. Book your escape. Visit tourismnewbrunswick.ca.
Sure. Oh, look at that big dude. See, I can see fish out almost 120 feet.
I would have never caught any of those fish today without that active target.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Fish East Live. Fish East Live. It's a Monday, and my tongue doesn't want to work, but that's nothing new. I'm your host, Don Patterson. We thank you for joining us. It's been a couple weeks, or a little more than a couple weeks, since we've been on. A little busy, open water season kicking off, and everybody's out and about doing their thing and getting that spring fever and wanting to hook that first open water fish. And I hope you've all had a chance to get out in your various areas. I know you folks in Nova Scotia have the advantage of being open a little longer than we have here in New Brunswick, but things are in full swing and, definitely shaping up to be a great season. Speaking of great seasons, we're going to recap a couple great episodes tonight. And luckily, we had some great guests on those episodes. So if you've had a chance to tune into Wild TV and check out our episode of fall fishing in the Miramichi, and then we also did some fall fishing in the Nakwik Woodstock area in an episode we called Don't Forget to Look Up River. And, we had some spectacular smallmouth fishing and then some muskie fishing in there as well. So lots of great stuff to talk about. And we've got a little technical issue. So Matt's just trying to get online with us here now. But we do have some guests waiting. And, right off the bat, I don't know if you want to call this guy a guest. My partner in crime, my co-host on Fish East, Mr. Ben Wu. He's in here somewhere, I promise. Like I said, folks, this is the beauties of doing a live broadcast. You can get some technical issues, and there's nothing you can do about it. So unfortunately for you folks, you're stuck looking at me. When we get a chance and we get our guests on here, we've got Jeff Wilson, co-host and co-founder of the Miramichi Striper Cup, joining us. We have Brian Gray from Miramichi Sport Fishing joining us. Brian is definitely one of the most sought after guides in the Miramichi, and was nice enough to take us out for that the episode of Fish East we filmed up there, and had a great day on the water with Brian. Not the first time we'd been on the water with Brian, and definitely not the last. And we've got just so much to talk about. And then when we shift gears and we leave the Miramichi and we come back to the St. John River system, we spend some time around Nakwik once again with our buddy Jeff Wilson, a part-time Nakwik resident. And, then we move a little further upriver, and Ben and I do some smallmouth fishing alone. And I will admit, there's one fish that I'm disappointed didn't make the cut for the episode, because I did hook my personal best smallmouth on that shoot, but it's the memories that matter, and those ones will last, stick with me forever. So in the meantime, I'm still getting messages. We're having technical issues, so I'm just going to keep rambling. Pop over into the chat box or into the comments. Shoot us a message. Let us know. Have you been out? What are your spring goals? What do you got going on? Let us know. I'm not going to lie to you, folks. I haven't wet a line since the ice went out. Got a lot going on and making some changes and a lot of stuff happening. And here in the next week or so, I'll get that monkey off my back and get out, wet a line, bend some new ducket rods, get a chance to really enjoy myself and wouldn't clear my head because God knows it's been a busy start to this spring, and a break is going to come in handy. So if you're out there, shoot us a comment, drop us a comment. Let us know what your goals are. Let us know what you're up to. What your early season plans entail. I'm just going to jump screens here for a second and see if I can't find a little more information. Hopefully we can get the other guys online here soon.
Sorry.
Here we go.
Had a little technical issue there.
Yeah, that happens. Like I said, that's the beauty of a live broadcast. And the unfortunate part for the folks at home is they had to look at my face instead of having multiple people on the screen to distract them.
I'll tell you what, other than the weird technical stuff going on tonight, we do have quite the lineup of guests, some of literally New Brunswick's best when it comes to the angling community. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, anyone involved in fishing in New Brunswick knows the name Jeff Wilson. If you don't know,
you would have heard.
You may not know Jeff, but you've heard that name. His reputation kind of precedes itself. I'll leave it up to him to decide whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But definitely a man that I'm proud to call a friend and absolutely thrilled every time we get a chance to have him on the show, whether it be on here or on the actual TV show on Wild TV. Just a great guest, great angler, and great proponent, great ambassador for sport fishing across the region and in New Brunswick. So
absolutely.
I'd say without any further ado, let's bring Jeff on.
Well, before Jeff, we actually got our Nova Scotia boy finally came to the house. So let's get him in here. Hold on, we can't start without him. What's going on, Zito?
How's it going, guys?
How's everything, man? Where you at?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Little rush tonight. Had some. The daughter had some what's it called, brownies. Kind of like the Girl Guides thing. So I'm just rushing home and getting all geared up there. So I apologize for being late, but I made it. I'm here. I'm ready to fish. Let's do it.
Awesome.
Right on. Glad to have you with us, Matt. I was starting to think you were going to bail on us and leave us hanging.
28 episodes straight. Come on, there's no way you would have missed the 28th episode.
Not a chance. No.
So you were saying, Donnie, did we want to bring in Mr. Wilson first?
I think we should bring in Mr. Wilson. The technical issues aside, it's gone on long enough. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome us in joining Mr. Jeff Wilson.
Hey, woo!
We made it.
How's it going?
What's going on, Jeff?
All the very best.
You're getting geared up, man. It's been a long couple years without, an in-person Striper Cup.
Oh, I know. I'm looking forward to it. I was up like about a week ago at the striper fishing, and my hands are still sore. And I heard you say, Donnie, you haven't been out yet, so I've only got about 250 fish so far this year. But
you're ahead of me by a little bit.
Out twice.
You went out twice. I only went out once, though.
Well, guess what? I'll make up for it because I'm going to get a chance here in the not too distant future to introduce my lovely wife to striper fishing, and we're going to spend a day on the water with our next guest. My wife has never been striper fishing before, so I said, what better individual to help me introduce her to striper fishing than Miramichi Sport Fishing's Brian Gray.
Yeah. There's the man.
Good evening, fellas.
How you doing, Brian?
Oh, top notch.
So Donnie, I mean, we're going to break this show up right into two parts. We were covering two shows that we covered during our first season here. The first one, obviously, was our trip to Miramichi. And it was a little bit different, right, Jeff? I mean, we didn't really start filming until later on in the season. And when we approached you about it, you were like, Ben, I have no concerns if you want to film that later in the year. And I remember Donnie and I looking at each other like, really? Gus pretty confident. I guess we should take him up and maybe, let's do this. And I didn't know what to expect going because I don't have a lot of experience personally fishing the Shee in the fall. Obviously, in the spring, yes, of course. I've been fishing with both you gentlemen in the spring. But in the fall, I personally didn't know what to expect. Donnie, I don't know what was going through your mind.
I mean, I really didn't know. Knowing that the fall is, a or I shouldn't say primarily, in the eyes of a lot of people, a cut bait fishery, not a lure fishery. I had only been up there once in the fall before, and we were up there all day, and I put two fish in the boat. So I was really, I'm going out with two guys that I absolutely trust. If they say there's fish to be had, then I know there's fish to be had. But personal experience had my expectations tempered at best.
And I'm going to say this, and then we're going to circle back to this. But even since the shooting of that show, a lot of new things were discovered. I can speak from personal experience when I went out with Brian last fall. And I think that's continued on and it's going to continue developing. When we filmed the show, obviously we used cut bait. It was a go-to kind of technique. It obviously worked, so much so that Donnie's in the middle of talking to the camera. He's getting bit. And I don't know how many guys, how many fish you guys caught. But I do want to kind of circle back to this kind of ever evolving scenario as we learn more about this striper fishery. And even up to right this spring, where I already feel, based on what I've seen, some new discoveries also being made. But before we get into that, Jeff, my first question to you is, Miramichi obviously has been missing that event that you're putting on, the Striper Cup. I wanted to give Jeff every opportunity to kind of catch us up on what's going on with the Striper Cup, and from there we'll dive right into the show. What do you think, Donnie? Is that cool?
That works for me.
Jeff, please tell us what is going on. Give us the update. Striper Cup coming up this month in Miramichi.
Well, I'd have to say this is shaping up to be an epic year. We've got around $125,000 in cash and prizes to give away on the weekend. A beautiful Lund boat as a door prize worth $40,000 for the team. CF Moto ATV for a door prize for the individuals. Multitudes of stuff from Shimano, Berkeley, Yeti, Garmin, all kinds of prizes. The fishing's been great so far. Already this year, the fish seem to be, the wintering fish seem to be there, but there seems to be, as Brian will probably talk about later, some more schools coming in Logieville and Middle Island and stuff coming up. So, it's just shaping up to be a great weekend. We've got I got my own custom beer made at the New Maritime Beer Company, and we're going to have a nice Newfoundland party there on the Thursday night for all the sponsors, a lobster and steak gala. We've got the hook and paddle guys starting on the Saturday, so we're really trying to expand this out for a week-long celebration, as well as the whole month of May. You can actually enter My Catch app. So, that was good. Last year was a great year. I mean, we registered 12,974 fish last year on the My Catch app. And we actually won an Atlantic Excellence Award for the best marketing event in Atlantic Canada. So this year, we're actually going to host that event in the fall. So as you know, what we've learned, and Brian and I have been out a couple of times there this fall, and really last year I showed a couple of videos, us just doing some phenomenal topwater fishing in the fall. And every time I get up there for a few days, and kind of like you folks, we're avid anglers, so we're trying to find out what's going on. Certainly, last year I used one chunk of mackerel the whole time in the fall. Everything else was artificial lures. It was way less messy to make my boat stink so bad, But no, we're looking forward to a great year. I think we have over 100 teams already registered for the Cup. We anticipate somewhere over 200. We've got a lot of nice new features and hidden weights and lots of stuff on the go. So lots of corporate sponsors coming down from Ontario and Quebec. And
nice.
Looking forward to fill the restaurants and hotels.
Well, I wanted to put this image up. That's that beer you were referring to there, Jeff, from the Maritime Beer Co. right in Miramichi. And they even got your name on it.
Yeah, you got somewhere when you got your name on a beer. Billy Carter got nothing on me with that Billy beer.
No,
right?
You can retire right now, Jeff, from fishing. This is it right there. And you were talking about this new Lund prize boat, and who's the sponsor for the boat?
That's Patterson's Marine is on board. Bobby Patterson and Diane. So beautiful boat package. Normally we used to give a 40 horsepower. Now it's a 50 horsepower donated by Mercury. We've got some motor guides for that. Like I said, it's a gorgeous package. The only difference this year is you will have to be at the awards ceremony on Sunday night to win the boat. All the rest of the prizes you can draw. You don't have to be there. but we really wanted to make sure that the boat winner was there as for a climax to the weekend.
Brian, I think Brian, why would you not want to be there on the Sunday night? It's a hoot.
Well, this is just it. Everything's going on. It'd be a great time.
I can't imagine
Especially
not being there.
to be there when somebody wins that boat. Like, that's going to be exciting.
Very, very.
You mean to be there when I win that boat?
Yeah, or
Yeah.
I would have no problem with that. But I know Matt's like, yep, Ben, win that boat. We could use that boat for sure.
Yeah.
The other thing is, the prizes. I think if you've never been to the Striper Cup, I just want to take a second and explain to you what this experience is. I've been to events all over the country, right? Everybody knows this. Tons of different events. The Striper Cup is incredibly unique for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a huge event. Like when you get to that angler meeting on the Friday night, it is an event. Like, what do you estimate? How many people are in that building, Jeff?
900. I'm gonna send you a picture right now.
Oh, there you go. And it's a great roaring time. I mean, like everybody's happy. Everybody's really excited to get out there. Obviously, fishing's been amazing. Everybody's been catching fish. It's not like one of those tournaments where like people are their heads are down because they haven't caught fish all week. It's more like they're holding their shoulders because they've caught so many fish this week, and they're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I have to do this for 2 more days."
We weighed in 4 tons of bass.
There you go.
4 tons.
Yes, sir.
And so this year we did get. So I got some custom made weigh-in bags. Rubberized weigh-in bags, so now we don't have to put them in the tote, so we can put one fish in each bag, less handling.
Sweet.
We're really happy. I mean, Dr. Avery and Dr. Easy are coming with the students from Acadia University Striped Bass Research Team, so that's good. And actually, new for this year on the Friday night, we're going to have a number of manufacturers are actually putting up booths to show.
It's like a mini expo on the scene.
Yeah, So they're there to answer questions and that sort of thing. So, we try and just keep adding to it every time I come up. I try and come up with some new ideas and keep everybody excited about it. And the prizes, as you mentioned, we have so many draw prizes. So everybody goes, yeah, we hand out $20,000 in cash to the top 10 teams. That's strict hard cash. But then the prizes, and last year we just sell tickets for $1 just to get you so you're in the room. Mm-hmm. And we actually raised $5,000 in 45 minutes for Bass Research last time.
Nice.
So
beautiful.
And everybody was winning prizes. We bring all the kids up to the front, try and give them prizes. And it's just like some of the companies were so lucky to have these corporate people join us, like Berkeley and Port Fishing and Shimano and all these different companies that the local community, Town Ford and the New Maritime Beer Company, of course, and Big Rigs and Dorian Enterprises and all these community events, these people that come together, deals for you. And, who knows deals for you? Like Jeff Morris gives us $1,500 to help out. And, so without this community support, it just doesn't go anywhere. It's incredible. And, it's all part and parcel to the experience. Because at the end of the day, Jeff, for the Joe Blow who's signing up for this thing with his buddies to come for the weekend, it's an experience. Like if you've never done it, it's not hard. Ask anybody; they'll show you where to put in. Follow the boats where they're going. Yeah. More specifically, the guy with the biggest target on his back is right below me, right here. Brian Gray. Follow his boat. It's a brand new, shiny, fixed up boat. Yeah. Won't miss him. If you see a pack just moving around with one boat in the middle, that's usually Brian. So if you don't know what you're doing, do that. Don't follow me. Follow Brian. Brian knows what he's doing. And it's a roaring good time. And for you, Brian, just to shift gears a little bit, as a local, someone who lives from Miramichi, from the region, as well as a guide there. I mean, the impact that this event has, right?
Oh, it's fantastic. Like it's the whole month of May. It's just an influx of boats. Like I was upriver today in Mill Stream and there was 20 boats there. And I bet you 15 of them for sure were not from the Miramichi. And it's just, this is the 1st of May. Like it's just going to keep getting better and better and better as the month goes on. And the amount of people coming in, it's a huge impact. The striped bass fishery on the Miramichi and the Striper Cup. It's just, it's a fantastic thing to have here.
All right. I know, Matt, you haven't had a chance to hit up the sheaf for stripers yet, but don't worry, folks. We've got it covered. Matt's coming up to join me on the sheaf sometime this month. We're going to introduce him to some clear water stripers so you can actually see the fish he catches for once.
Yeah. You might want to wait till the end of the month for the clear water, but she's coming.
Well, don't worry. Where he's coming from, even now, is clear.
I was going to.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, if I can see a foot into the water, that's clear to me.
You're in the shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were.
There's no clarity. You don't know how big the fish is until it reaches the surface. There's no seeing it until that moment. So.
Last 2 weeks ago, we were in a foot of water, and you couldn't see the fish in a foot of water.
Right. But over the next few weeks, that water is just going to get more and more clear. And I know Donnie's participating as well, aren't you, Donnie?
I am taking fishing with two longtime friends who have, much like I was up to a couple of years ago, have not been up there yet. I'll be fishing with my buddies Jason Bellier and Max Dusso. Nice. And I see a comment popping up from our YouTube stream that's rolling out right now. Another friend who, most people probably wouldn't believe it because God knows he's chased enough stripers in the Kennebecases, but he's never made that 2.5 hour drive to the Miramichi. Jeff Rathburn, I see he's going up for his first kick at the camp.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing, right? So let's now we got people on there, Martin, saying, I'm heading up to the She on Thursday. In fact, I might be there this weekend myself. But anyhow, let's circle back now to the show. The comments, guys, that we got from the show were simple. It's like, number one, oh my God, we didn't know they bit in the fall. That's first and foremost. And number two, we didn't know it was how frequent you guys were getting bit, how many fish you were actually putting in the boat. It wasn't once in a while. Once you got into them, it was just like it is in the spring, just a little bit different presentation. So, Jeff, I'd like for you to explain what was going on during that show at that time.
So we were there. This is the one we're doing under the bridge there, the green. Of course, Brian had given us a good tips on where the fish were. So I always say, like, with all the bait in one spot, that's why the fish end up going there. But it's an estuary, so we're using cut mackerel and herring, and basically just dropping a 2 ounce or a 1 ounce weight. You want it pretty much directly under the boat. I like using a single bait rig. I just don't think it's important to catch two fish at one time. But a lot of guys use doubles, high, low. But I mean, since we've done that, that's what we were doing on that show. And then this year I went there, I stayed there for about 20 minutes and I left and I never went back. I literally the whole time was fishing, the same kind of things as the spring and just following the bass around with the live scope and just, it was good. But in that show itself, it was strictly, now I think we did Bow Bear Island just above the point there too. Day one, I think, Donnie, we were up there in that location where you're kind of getting a few stripers there. But, it's fun. Like, it's, to me, catching is way more fun than fishing. So I enjoy catching them. I put them back. But, I mean, I like taking new guys. That's the thing about this is it's getting a lot of people into fishing because they like catching. They just can't handle the fishing part. No, and so they get some fish and the families and the kids. That's the best part I love about the Striper Cup is seeing the families that come. And you can imagine now the first year we had the Cup, a 16-year-old won the boat. Like you couldn't have played that out any better.
Crazy. Brian, I want to get technical with you because we've had this question as well. We came down in the fall and we didn't start where let's call the traditional zone, around the Ritchie Wharf area and that kind of space. We actually started way up around Nappen, and I wanted just to talk through like what was the strategy there and what made us change.
Well, Nappen was fishing pretty good right up until that point, and we went to Nappen basically that morning because the forecast that morning was supposed to be the same as it was the day before, and it was terribly windy in the main river, so we thought we'd try Nappen, but it was pretty windy out there, so we ended up moving up off of Bow Bears Island. But in the Nappen River, it's you're right close to the bay there. The fish will be there in the fall when they start coming back in. They'll be there quicker than they will be up in the main river usually. So
would that be an area that you would recommend anglers go check out in the fall? When you say fall, it was starting about what time of year would you start looking around there?
Mid-September. That's usually when things start getting going pretty good, where you're going to go out and you're going to have a good day of fishing. Like usually we get them. The last 3 or 4 years, I've got them like August 31st, but then it's been kind of low days in between them. But usually by mid-September, things are firing up real good by then.
Okay, so that's one area. It didn't work out for us, right, Donnie? Because it was windy like heck.
We got the first one. We broke the ice.
Yeah, we definitely did. it was just not pleasant to be out there in that type of wind. And that's when I think we decided to
I think
move.
we got stuck a couple of times.
Well, I
didn't we?
did. I got stuck a lot of times. The water, the tide, everything, it was just a mess. So we decided to move locations. And you nailed it right there, Jeff. I mean, on Fishies, we don't hide where we are. We don't put blurry, images behind. I mean, we're at Beaubear Island. It's not a rocket science. If you've ever been to the She, it's a pretty darn big landmark. And honestly, I think I speak for everybody. I think we kind of went there first because it was out of the wind.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I mean, that was a big part of it, right? But just to show, and the reason I want to bring that up, we were kind of just randomly trying to find a spot that we could film that was out of the wind, and even with just being random, let's call it what it is. It's not like we had this whole pattern set out and waypoints. Wow. We started working the area, and you guys just got onto them, and it was furious. And I remember Donnie I would just look over from the other boat, and it was just rod after the next. So. And that's what I'm really happy about that episode, Donnie, is that it showed A, how accessible it is, B, it's easy, and C, it's plentiful.
Yeah, exactly. And it is accessible, and you don't need, especially, I mean, don't get me wrong, you can go up there and fish with cut bait just about any time of year, but you go up there in the fall, and, if you don't have the physical strength, say you're fishing with kids and they don't have the physical strength to be chucking lures all day long. It is very accessible. It's bait and weight, and you're going to catch fish. And that's the beauty of the Miramichi, is it doesn't matter if you're 6 years old or 106.
Can I add something to this, Donnie? And I wish we said this or had somebody that could come and maybe be an example of this. But for those who are physically impaired by any means, maybe they're bound to a wheelchair or something like that, this is a great way to get them out, because again, like you said, you don't have to be super athletic. You're not casting these big swim baits and stuff. Jeff literally sat down. Sorry, Jeff, I'm calling you out on this. Jeff was sitting down most of the time and just dropped the bait literally over the edge and hooked the fish, and then he would get up for the camera. That's exactly how it went. Maybe if it was big
on how big the fish felt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, accessibility, again, is something that Fishies, that we're really, passionate about, letting people know about these opportunities. And the last thing, Brian, for you, your guiding service, right? Miramichi Sport Fishing, you're providing these tours from when to when?
In the spring, usually start around the 1st of May. Last year it was earlier. Everything was earlier. The fish were in earlier, so we were doing it. But this year here, we started at the 1st of May. And usually goes till mid-June, and then the fall again usually start around the 15th of September, and it's good fishing right till the end of the season on October 31st.
Hey, Brian, maybe you could tell them about where you launch out of, because as they talked about accessibility, the accessibility there, if somebody was head disabled or something, they could easily get down there, Station Street Wharf and stuff.
Yeah, Station Wharf Marina on the Miramichi East, they call it, the Chatham side of the river. It's the docks are in there. It's a real good spot. And at the Rod, I pick a lot of people up at the Rod Hotel also there.
It's literally right behind the Rod Hotel.
Right beside it, yeah.
Or right beside it, rather. And they kind of renovated that whole thing. It's got a little gazebo you can sit at and everything now.
They did a big job on it a couple of years ago. Yeah, it's a real nice spot now. They put the docks in today and at that Station Wharf Marina, and they put the dock in at the Slip and Ritchie Wharf also, so
nice. I think the city's going to invest. They've got some investment strategy now with some new launches as well. They bought some ground. They're looking to ramp that up. And the city over the last little while, we're trying to get the docks in earlier and keep them in later.
Nice. Matt, did you have any questions for our guests as far as what you were watching, or when the Miramichi episode that we did?
No, well, actually, yeah, watching, and you guys were talking about bait in the system at that time. What bait exactly are they chasing? Is it mackerel and herring that are still in the river, or is it like a smaller bait fish, but people just still use cut because it's available? Like, what's going on there?
A lot of people use mainly mackerel because that's more accessible for everybody, but I usually got mackerel, herring, Gasbro, and smelts on the boat, and sometimes one of them will work way better than the rest. I've seen pull in between a couple of friends just talking, and we have Gasbro on, and they're using mackerel, and maybe we caught about 3 to 1 in an hour and a half of compared to what they caught, and we caught about 50 fish. Like, It was just unreal. But just all depends. Sometimes the different flavor makes a difference. But mackerel is more accessible for everybody, so that's usually what you'll see more of out there. But I tend to use more herring and Gasbro and smelts. Female smelts with the roe in them is the best.
Ooh,
Okay.
there's a secret that was just unleashed right there. Well, unlock secret right there.
Do you tend to have more success on the bait than lures at that time of the year, or does it depend on the day, kind of thing?
Can I just segue here real quick? That's a great question, Matt. I was saving this for the end. Remember in the beginning of the talk there, I said there's been a lot of evolution with this striper fishery in Miramichi over the years. You know, Jeff was one of the first to figure it out. And since then, obviously, a lot more eyeballs, a lot more anglers have come in and tried different things. So I want to segue what you just asked there. I had the opportunity to go with Brian last fall and with Jeff as well. Donnie was with me.
Yep.
And we went on the fall. And yes, we went with the cut because that's what we knew works. It's proven. There's no question about it. You show up in the fall on the Shee, put over some chunk bait, you are going to catch fish. But of course, us being us, we wanted to push the envelope a little bit and go exploring. And Jeff is like, we got to get him on lure. We can get him on lure. Guys, I'm here to tell you today that those fish on the Shee in the fall, they take lures. And they take them hard. I don't know how much more you guys want to say about it, but that's what I'm confirming.
Oh,
Yeah.
Here's the...
Can't see, Jeff. There's nothing there.
Oh.
Light your screen up.
Yeah. So, can you see that?
Oh, let's go here.
Sand eel, is it?
What is that?
So that is the lance fish. So that entails 90% of the striper's diet.
Ooh.
So when you look
Makes
at
sense.
that fish and that's what they eat. Now, I don't know if you've seen those or what they do. A lot of times they're in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
If you see them in the sand, they'll stand out of the sand actually. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then I'm just going to see if I could. Let's see if I get that picture. I'm going to show you that they can. So they'll actually stick out of the sand like that, like a sandworm.
He's giving it all away right here, folks. Take notes.
Pardon?
I said, you're giving it all away. The house is for sale. Let's go.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, that's why, you use some of those eel type baits. You're using, swim baits, all that, but let's be realistic. So, if you're not going for a reaction bait, which a lot of guys do is basically what we're fishing for, that sand is what they're looking for. So when they're up in the napping early in the season, that's what they're looking for, those lance fish and stuff. And so there's quite a bit of, but if you look at those colors and then, they change a little bit, but that's
Ryan Thompson just messaged in Miramichi Ned rigs. There
He's
you go.
just-
You got it, Ryan. You nailed it.
I was thinking
saying-
the same
You
thing.
nailed it.
You said
Yeah,
that.
I
was
want a
thinking
Ned rig that's a foot long. That's what I want. I want a Ned rig that's a foot long. Make it happen.
I'll tell you, I use like a 6-inch green eel on a 3/4 ounce jig head, stand up jig head.
Mm-hmm.
And I've caught my biggest bass
Yeah,
every year on that. Every year.
Makes
Okay,
sense.
I gotta
Even
go
on
to-
the swim bait, they take them in the fall. I mean, Brian and I, in the matter of 3 hours, probably boated, a hefty amount of fish with our guests.
Oh, it was incredible.
Maybe you're not catching that giant 35 to 40-inch monster, but man, it's fun in the fall when they're on like that, and they're not that hard to find.
But the topwater bite. I mean, last year I did it through the video with a drone, and then the topwater bite was incredible every cast. And I mean, you're missing them. Now, one thing I did learn now is you can actually put 3 single hooks on a topwater. And for many years,
I thought it was
you
one
were only
single hook.
Yep, but I grilled DFO this year because if you're allowed 5 rods with 5 hooks, why can't I have one lure with 3 hooks? And so they had to agree that, in fact, that is legal. So I've been always having a single hook on my topwater, but now I can put 3 on there. So that will improve the hookup ratio.
So when you say you mean one single treble hook, is that what you're saying?
No, 3 single hooks. So at first I moved my single hook right to the nose of the bait on two eye rings so that it drops below. That really helped. But now that I've done that, I'm going to put all the hooks. Like I'll put that on the front and one on the back too. Just something because they never really wanted to say much, and I felt it was when I was with DFO, the Eastern Advisory Board meeting I brought that up as a question because CMT and science was there, so they had to answer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what their answer was. Well, technically, you can have 3 single barbless hooks, no problem.
And if I know Jeff Wilson, he is the world's best questioner.
Yeah,
that's all I have to say about that. Ask the good
Yeah.
questions. Donnie, we got to move on. We got a hot guest in the back. He's itchy to get on. I could feel it.
We got our other guest. So Brian, if you're more than welcome to stay with us. But folks, before we move on to this next guest, whether it's the spring or fall, get up to Miramichi, pay them a visit. If you don't have a rig of your own, give Brian a call. Miramichi Sport Fishing, and if he's booked, he's got other contacts. He will hook you up with some of the top-notch guides in the area. We got to
give a shout out to Mac Regan.
Oh,
yeah. There's another.
It's a community up there, and there's some great guys. And like I said, if Brian's booked, he won't leave you stranded. He'll help get point you in the right direction as someone who's going to treat you right and get you on some great Miramichi striper fishing.
Yeah.
So
from there, the next episode, Don, where did we go?
We went upriver on the St. John system. We went above the Mactaquac Dam, whether you want to call it Mactaquac Lake or the Head Pond or one of the 700 different local names that people will use for different stretches of water. Started out in Jeff Wilson's. I don't know, Jeff, is that your second or is that your third home? Because you have your house down the road from me, then you got your camp, but then you spend so much time in the Miramichi. I think you're an honorary resident there. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
the Days Inn has got my own room there, room 103 or whatever.
The Wilson Suite.
It is. It's the only single room on the bottom floor with boat parking.
There you go.
So
I know exactly which one it is.
Yeah. So we headed up to Nakawik to start out doing some smallmouth fishing while Jeff was waving to his wife in the window of their camp right from the boat. And then we took a venture upriver again. Ben and I did some smallmouth fishing on our own. And then we introduced our next guide to the Fish East audience on Wild TV, or our next guest. Probably the best known muskie guide in the province of New Brunswick. Definitely one of the pioneers of muskie fishing on the fly in the province of New Brunswick. Good friend and one hell of an angler, Mr. Marlon Prince.
What's up, guys?
What's going on, brother? Hey, Marlon, can you do us a favor? Can you rotate your phone sideways so we can get the full view?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
There you go. Now we got you. We got you loud and clear. Welcome to the show, Marlon.
What's up, boys? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
I don't know if you'd be interested.
Yeah. Marlon hates talking fishing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, get me started. Boys, I mean, Fish East is killing it. You guys are all over the map, going to places I wish I had time to go.
It's really when we did the outline, we said, where would Marlon want to go but doesn't have time for it? That's kind of how we outlined our entire
Where would I want to go back to? I love the Yarmouth episode. When I first moved to the Maritimes, I moved to Truro, and I spent a ton of time down there catching those monster pickerel, catching those big smallies in some of those backwater lakes, and man, what a blast. I'd love to get back down there sometime.
It's a different place altogether. So I think what we should break down, let's just talk about the bass real quick. Smallmouth bass in the St. John River is something that is exceptional. If you haven't experienced it yet, it's certainly something that's very accessible. We showed you 2 different locations that you could easily put in on. One is Nakawik, and Jeff, maybe just real quick, the things that are going on right now in Nakawik for that boat launch.
Well, I mean, Nakawik's been a host of our tournaments for many years. They just managed to put $1 million into the new marina, which is awesome. I think we ended up fishing in front of my place because there was 5-foot whitecaps out everywhere else on the water. So again,
people don't understand this, right? Like, we went to film. It's not like we can choose our days. So whether there's 4-foot waves and white caps, or it's dead calm and sunny skies, we still got to film.
Yeah,
and I just wanted to say, shout out to the entire crew for putting up with all that.
It's a tough go. Thankfully, there in Nakawik, you can, there's a lot with all the different directions of the river and the Nakawik stream and the Pokiok and up the Shagama. There's lots of nice sheltered coves. So that's the best part about Nakawik, is that you can come with a kayak and go up the river, or you can come with a bass boat and buzz all over.
Well,
Marlon,
I was just gonna say Marlon's no stranger to that intersection.
Yeah.
And can you speak, Marlon, a little bit to the potential muskie fishing that's in that corner?
I mean, look up Nakowick Fatty. Anybody that wants to know what the potential is there. You know, I do a ton of research. I live, breathe, die muskie, and I think there's been 3 waters that have proven they can put up a 60-pound muskie. Georgian Bay, the St. Lawrence, and anyone who knows muskie fishing, those are the big boys. And number 3 is the St. John River. Produced, it wasn't angled. It was a fish that washed up on shore maybe 10 years ago. But a 51-inch, 61-pound or 62 pounds, depends who you ask, muskie, washed up on shore, still alive. I mean, it's amazing that's still not talked about. I still tell people about it all the time because, you know, like I said, there's 3 bodies of water in the world that can produce a fish like that, and we've got one right in Nakowick. You know, I mean, the whole river's got the potential, but once you get around that bend, it's big, deep water. There's spawning areas. There's everything happens in Nakowick. It's the bend of the river, you know, and Jeff's absolutely right. When I get older or younger clients that may not want to deal with the big waves that the St. John can hit you with, Nakowick's the perfect spot. If you get a north wind, you go upriver, and if you get that east or west wind that's rocking, you can go downriver, and you're going to find some more comfortable stuff, and fish are all over. So
it's a magic spot where the smallie guys love it, the musky guys love it, and you know, dude, the perch is the panfish there is incredible. Like some of the best, biggest, and baddest whiteys that live in New Brunswick or Maritimes for that matter, live right there in that intersection, and that's why we spend a lot of time there just on the fun. And so that show, Donnie, you know, I remember saying like, how far did you want to run, this and that, and remember when we talked to Jeff, just like run. Do we even need to put on the big motor? And we
legitimately could have filmed the Nakowick segment, not so much when we went upriver a little further, just you and I, but the Nakowick segment, we very easily could have filmed that without firing the big motor because, you know, we were basically, for those of you who aren't, you know, familiar or are familiar with Nakowick, you know, or, you know, it's easy to find, Google the Nakowick big axe. And we were basically never out of sight of that axe. And I mean, the boat launch is right there beside it. And it wasn't just a one trick day. You know, if you pretty much think of a way, I'll say with soft plastics to catch a smallmouth, we were pretty much, you know, covering all bases.
And remember, we're in the fall, right? If you're there in the summertime, it's beautiful, obviously. But the one thing that you're going to have to know when you know, if you want success, is you're going to have to play in the weeds a little bit because that's where they like to hide and live in around the Nakowick area.
I don't know if you saw my article, right, Fish in Canada, but I have one on shore fishing, and all the pictures, I literally walked from my house down to the shore, and I sold my boat and ordered my new one, so I was relegated to the, you know, pair of freaking rubber boots and a fishing rod, and I caught smallies every day, going by shore, walking down here, catching fish, and I think that people, you know, sometimes they see us guys with big boats and going, and they think it's inaccessible, and I mean, so I sold my boat like the 1st of August, and I didn't have a boat till the next spring, and it didn't slow my fishing down at all. And in fact, I talked to Marlon about going up to a couple of places way upriver where you can only walk. You know, like we're talking about getting above the Heartland Bridge, and you know, damn. I mean, there's so many places to explore in the St. John River and that whole area. It's incredible.
I mean, just you talking about that makes me think about all those gorgeous campfire and, you know, sunset shots that Marlon always seems to put up in these remote places.
I got to speak up about Nakowick and you guys saying you know, you don't have to have the big boat. Nate's first muskie on his own. I think this is the day I met Nate. I see a guy fishing.
Wait, are you talking about Nate Chapman?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Nate Chapman, one of our cameramen.
Back then, I think he was rocking one of those plastic Canadian tire boats. You know, what are they called? Like the Bassmaster or whatever.
The little Pelican
he said he was
type.
running out of batteries on his Minn Kota. He goes, I had one muskie bait and it wasn't working, so I figured, well, I've got to get back to shore before I run out of batteries. He threw a floating Rapala, like a little Rapala jerk bait, 4 inches, came into shore, and on his way in, he hooks a 42-inch muskie. He showed me the video. I'm out there with a 20-foot boat, 90 horsepower, thousands of dollars worth of lures. I haven't caught shit all day.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. But that's Nakawik, though. Like,
that's
literally,
exactly
it's where dreams are made.
That's the point. All within sight of the big axe.
100%.
So,
yep, go ahead, Donnie.
Marlon, you mentioned the Nakawik fatty and the St. John River's ability to produce a 60-plus pound muskie. That was the biggest one recorded, obviously, as you said, not angled. What is, and I know it's just a formula, length versus, and girth and whatnot, but what's the estimated weight on the largest muskie angled from the St. John system?
That would be Steve Eldridge, and he caught that one. Man, that's got to be almost 10 years ago now. It was not long after the Nakawik fatty was found. I believe it was 48.5 pounds. And there's a guy, I mean, diehard muskie angler. Again, you don't, for all the guys out there, you don't have to have thousands of dollars worth of gear and a huge boat. Steve fishes out of a 15-foot John boat with a 9.9. He's got 2 rods and a very small tackle box, tried and true. And every year Steve puts up some giants. He's got more 50-inch muskies than a lot of people, and rightfully so. He's got our record here in New Brunswick. The champ, he calls her.
The champ. Nice. All right. Well, listen, we did some smallmouth bass in and around, like, literally the launch, we'll call it. The next day we went up river a little bit further to a place called Woodstock. Now, Woodstock is kind of famous for a lot of things. It's got a lot of bass tournaments out of Woodstock. Some of the biggest bass tournaments in the history of the province go out of there, the championship, so on and so forth. A lot of attention on muskie in the Woodstock area as well. I'm going to quote what I learned from Marlon. And he said, Ben, you want to catch muskie? You don't need to fish further than 5 minutes from any boat launch you're going to put in. And when you go there and you see guys doing circles around, those are all muskie guys because they're not going very far. But before we talk about muskie, we just got one more thing I want to say. That freaking section of the river in the fall is something magical. If you watch the show, unfortunately, a lot of the footage got left on the cutting room floor. We literally, Donnie, could have put an entire show together, just that section of Woodstock bass fishing.
Well, I mean, as I said in my intro, while I was rambling because of our technical issues, literally my personal best smallmouth didn't even make the show.
It's crazy.
And that's how phenomenal of a day it was. And it's definitely not because the fish wasn't worthy of it. It was, just the footage wasn't right. The lighting wasn't right, whatever the case may be. We got to go with the best possible footage. And so when you take, Jeff, you've been fishing bass in New Brunswick longer than anyone else on this screen. How common is a 5-pound smallmouth in New Brunswick?
I don't think I can put that many on my hand for all that I've heard of. I mean, I've heard of more, but ones I've actually
it's a rarity.
It's very rare.
It's like a 50-inch muskie.
It's a 20-year-old fish. Mm-hmm. That takes a long time to grow that size here.
Yeah, exactly. I see a comment there from Renee Pelche. We regularly catch 7+ species in Nakawik on kayaks during a one-day hook and paddle multi-species tournament.
Renee's the defending champion of that series.
Yes, he is. So he would definitely know how to catch a variety of different species, and that's just
I was trying to put the run from my dock. My dock is full. It looked like a Christmas tree after the hook and paddle event. It was like
it was ornamental.
Like ornamental. That's a good spot. One time, the muskie tournament, I took a big piece of plywood at night and I wrote "No muskies here" with an arrow, and I stuck it on the tree in front of my house in Nakawik, and the buggers posted a picture with Buddy holding a big muskie with the sign behind it.
You sure that wasn't, a guide?
Yeah.
Maybe, no, I'm just kidding. So, Donnie, you're talking about this fish right here.
I am talking about that fish right there. And I mean, I call it a 5-pounder. We didn't have a scale with us because, scaling fish wasn't what that day was all about. But if that fish isn't 5 pounds, it is some awful close to it.
Well, you're 250 and it doesn't look that much smaller than you.
I was actually probably closer to 260 in that picture. And, but
if
no.
That was Donnie now holding that same fish. It looked like a 6-pound plus. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's, we'll try and make it look like a 7 here in the next couple of years.
Yeah. So here's the deal. To wrap up the Woodstock area, another incredible facility right in downtown Woodstock, tons of parking, No stress at all as far as putting any type of boat in. I put in everything from a 21-foot V-hull multi-species Ranger to a 10-foot John boat to a kayak. It accommodates it all. There's docking systems in there. If you have a small craft, man, you don't even need to go far. You can just fish the channel even before the bridge that goes out. You know, you can fish from shore, right? Like there's so many available options right there. But if you do have access to a boat and you want to get into the channel, the smallmouth are big, bad, nasty, and plentiful. And now I'm going to shift the conversation to the muskie. So when we reached out to Marlon, said, anywhere you want, where do you want to go in the fall? Where would you like to, one quick segment. We want one fish. Where would you want to go? And Marlon, you specifically said, no, we got to hit Woodstock. So I want you to kind of share the process of your brain of how that came about.
I mean, it's history. I mean, they say don't fish history, but every single year Woodstock puts up those big fish. I think it was the day before we went out. Ben Thornton got a 50-inch fish out of my boat. Woodstock's got size. Woodstock's got numbers for muskies. Jeff just mentioned some of that skinnier water that's up above. And, I think Woodstock's that first part in the river that things start to, the current starts to slow down a bit. There's deeper channels. It's the first place where you start to see 50, 60 feet on the St. John River. I knew we had one day. My approach may have been different if you said we've got 3 days and we're hunting a giant, because really that's what it takes with muskies. Sometimes it takes a week if you want that one big, huge fish. But, we wanted to get something on camera. We wanted to get some first muskies in the boat. And Woodstock's the place to do it, man. It's got a great population of them. It's got great water. And, we were on them. I'd been doing some guiding up there and some personal fishing up there. Hey, we got our fish early in the day. And I think that's when the Panoptics was new in my boat. I always tell people with that technology, you'll learn all new ways to curse at fish. And I think we did. I think by the end of the day, we did a little bit of that.
Well, so here's what got left on the cutting room floor. There were fish everywhere we trolled. Okay. Not only were there was fish coming up to our baits constantly and seeing it painfully not take every single time. It was frustrating for everybody, but at least we got the skunk out of the boat. We caught that fish. Donnie, that was your first fish on a troll, so I want you to talk about that a little bit.
Well, that was my first. Woodstock, I guess, from a muskie perspective, is now always going to hold a special place for me because, my first muskie ever, I was fishing a bass tournament out of Woodstock and caught one accidentally. This was my first targeted muskie. And as Ben said, on the troll too, which is not something that I normally do. I mean, coming from a smallmouth tournament background, trolling is, kind of a no-no. So yeah, it was different because it's peaceful, it's serene. I mean, it was November, like mid-November. So it's not like you're sitting in the sun and drinking a cold beer. Like, it's peaceful, it's serene. We're on the water, but it's still mid-November. And then all of a sudden that rod goes off and all hell breaks loose. And, I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, that wasn't even, we never actually measured it, but I mean, that wasn't a monster fish by any stretch of the imagination, but just that 0 to 60, relaxed to heart beating up at the top of your head feeling is something that I can understand the addiction, and I can understand why it never gets old for these diehard muskie guys.
I want to kind of throw a question to Brian, who's been listening in on this. So, Brian, there are thousands of fish see your boat every year. What's your take on seeing this footage and having Marlon on and thinking about muskie? Is that something that you've kind of dabbled into yet?
Never gone and targeted them. Never caught one in a smallmouth tournament either, but it's very appealing. They seem like they're pretty cool.
I'm kind of like, I love my stripers, and I'm falling slowly, deeply, passionately in love with muskie at the same time. It's a total different experience. Size is one thing, but the hunt, the chase, that's the other thing when it comes to muskie. And Marlon, we gave Brian a chance to kind of talk about the services they offer. We all want to give you every opportunity as well. I mean, you're kind of known as the guide on the area. There's other ones, obviously. You mentioned Ben as well. But I just want, for the record, for those who are listening in or watching this on demand, what services do you offer, and what regions do you cover, or what bodies?
I'm known for my muskie guiding. That's why most people come to me and hire me to go out and fish for muskies. You know, and I do it all, whether it's fly fishing, any type of gear fishing. If you want to cast, if you want to troll, if you want to do vertical jigging, or a mix of anything, I really try and cater my trips. I really try and get to know my guests, even return guests. What are they looking for this time? Do you want the same experience as last time? Are you bringing kids? You guys were talking about the smallie fishing in Woodstock in the fall, and I mean, I love running muskie trips then, when people they bring kids and they want that action, because that time of year, man, you keep a Zara spook or a chopper or something like that rigged up on the side, and every time we reel in the trolling lines, throw one of those out, I'll just make sure to stop us by a prime spot, and you're gonna get hammered by some smallies too. So I try and cater my trips that way. I personally, I really enjoy hunting those big fish. That takes time. There's muskie guides out there, some of the best in the world. You can't book them unless you book 5 days, and that's their job, is to get you one fish in 5 days, and they want it to be a big fish, and that's just the game we're playing. I have a blast though, because a lot of people in New Brunswick, it's a new sport. A lot of people are just learning we have muskies. So a lot of times my job is to keep the reels singing and just get them those first fish, and just get us on action. And hey, it's easy. It's still hard. It's still tough. Every muskie is an accomplishment, but that's like I say, I try and cater my trips. I try and make sure, whether it's a hot bite or not, that people walk away learning something, enjoying their time on the water, and hopefully making a friend. That's the best part about guiding, is it's a huge network. I let people know they can call me later and ask how the bite's been, and I'll call them. We'll talk, and that's how it works, man. That's how you get on the bites and just continue to learn.
So what bodies of water do you cover, Brian?
I mean, I'm in Tracy, so logistically I have to keep it close to home. So I'll do, this time of year I do a little bit of bass fishing, pickerel, salmon, trout. I'm a bit of a wanderer this time.
How about fly? You do guide fly?
I prefer fly. I mean, I'll fish. I fish gear. I fish spinning gear. But I really prefer moving water in rivers and fly fishing this time of year. You know all about it. I took you out and got you on some smallies there. That was,
and I continue to do so.
It's a blast, man. I think it's one of the most overlooked fisheries in New Brunswick, is the small rivers, the moving water, smallmouth. And man, those fish are full of piss and vinegar. They fight hard. So at this point, I'm rigged with a drift boat, a raft that's set up with a rowing frame, hard floor. We'll drift a river. I've got a small John with a jet boat that we can take up, get to places other people can't go. And then I've got the 20-foot boat with the 90 horse. I can bring 3-4 people out, and we can do the big water with that one. So I like to cover it all. I offer all kind of trips, but really once we get to late May, early June, and the muskies are done spawning, I'm pretty booked up with that. I don't have much time to do other species.
Very good. There you go. Matt, like to pass the microphone to you. Any questions for our guests as far as the head pond, the St. John River episode that we did, or anything that you might have noticed that you might have questions?
I was blown away by the muskie. It's something I want to do. I mean, your guys' fishing is so different up there, in my opinion. I see the smallies you guys are getting, and I think. But I mean, we don't have muskie here, so that's really intriguing to me. I think what intrigues me is how, I'm obviously familiar with chain pickerel. They're in my backyard. That's what I fish all summer. That's the only, really the only thing that I really target in Kinsback. So I'm familiar with those, but it's so different. Like you guys are saying, you'll go days and get one muskie, and to me that's blows my mind, because I'll go one cast and catch a huge pickerel in the spots that I know. So I want that hunt though. I want that hunt. I want to go hardcore 3 days for that one big fish.
Can I say something here? And Marlon, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. Level 1 difficulty is you troll for the muskie, and that's an exhilarating experience when you hook up. Level 2, you cast for the muskie, and then you hook up, and that's oh my god, next level. Then you take it to the nth level and you fly cast for the muskie. I am not there yet. I'm definitely going out this year to try it. But like Matt, for somebody like you who loves to fly fish, I think the challenge and the reward of that experience would be lifelong. I don't know, Marlon, correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, I was talking about this with so actually I'm rocking the hat. Shout out to JF and Gas Bait Fly Co. Anyway, we were talking to them. They're hardcore salmon guys. We started talking, about muskies on the fly and how different it is and the challenge. The list of people that have caught a muskie on a fly is probably only in the hundreds. Thousands.
Wait. You mean New Brunswick? You mean New Brunswick?
No, ever in fishing. I would say the list of women that have caught muskie on a fly. We started talking about that. I would say less than 50.
Nice.
Well, I mean, that's the kind of challenge we're going after, and people really only started doing this fly fishing for muskies in the past 15 years. There were some old pioneers, but that's what's really cool is like fly fishing for muskies is like, if anyone knows Flip Pallet, and the guys who were fishing tarpon out of they were trying to figure out what boats were best to use for tarpon. This is before they had fiberglass skiffs. They were cutting holes in fluger reels and putting leather patches, riveting leather patches on so they could stop these fish without burning their hands. We're not doing stuff like that. Luckily, technology advances very quickly these days, but that's still kind of the stage we're in with muskie on the fly. We're pioneering this, guys that are into it. It's tough, but the gear is always changing. The approach is always changing. What's possible is always changing. And, that pushes me. That takes a hunt to the next level. When I first got to New Brunswick and I was new at fly fishing, going after muskies, and every time I'm out there, I'm thinking to myself, nobody has ever done this in the history of angling on this water. No one's put a fly here. Let's see what happens, And to me, that's it's a different level. It keeps you motivated for sure.
Does the Ned rig count as a fly fishing?
Dude? Anything counts in my mind. Everyone's got a line in the sand, and you decide where that is. It's fishing. Have fun.
I really think this speaks volumes and really goes to show a lot of what we've wanted to set out and show with Fish East. Jeff was talking earlier about he likes, catching more than fishing, and the striper fishery in the Miramichi and the plentiful fish and the bountiful catches, however you want to call it. You've got that extreme. And then over here, you've got, I see Roy Butler's comment, 9 hours, 5 guys on a boat, 1 fish. That hunt, that pursuit of that one giant fish. And it's every and everything in between. Yeah. And having done both, I understand the twisted addiction that can come with either side of it.
Can I comment on that real quick? So I've had my fair share of stripers, on gear. I tried something this year, and I blame Matt Zito for this. I went only on the fly for the stripers. Can I tell you, I feel like a born again. This is a totally revitalized my passion for striped bass on the fly. And this year, other than for the Striper Cup, because I think it'll put me at a disadvantage competitively, other than for the Striper Cup, I'm pretty sure I'll only be casting flies for stripers for the rest of the season.
But if the stripers are above the Red Bank Bridge, you'll be up there with a fly rod going nuts.
Yes, 100%. It is incredible. They are so aggressive, and it's like you think they have muscle with gear when you have drag. Try hooking that with a fly line and see what happens.
You got to go down and mud wrestle with some of those shooby pigs.
Don't you think we're headed down there first week of June and meeting up with Cito there? And he's coming up to the Shee, and we're going to go to Long Lake, go have fun over there with some Lakers, and then I'm going down and meeting and bringing my 10 weight, Marlon, my 10 weight. And I got buddy Brandon Snook tying me some game changers as per Matt Cito's specifications, and we're gonna go after some big old nasty 40-inch plus Stewie stripers.
Oh man, that is a blast. One of my biggest fish there came on a 6-weight with a shad fly. Unbelievable.
A 6-weight.
I was shad fishing on the phone, and the reel just dumped right into the backing. And needless to say, the phone hit the floor. And we got that fish in.
I want to circle back to a question that we got from Damon Walsh here. I think this question is for you, Marlon. What would you recommend as a good fly for smallmouth bass and fast-flowing rivers? I believe he's talking about spring, I would imagine.
Early spring, I would go Clouser minnow. Fish it low and painfully slow. Let it swing through the current. Let it swing into slack water and ever so slightly strip it in. You can get them. It's not the most fun way to fish smallmouth, but you can certainly get into a lot of fish. And that Clouser minnow is the way to go. I've caught almost every species on a Clouser. Once in a while, you'll get a nice big trout on the Clouser too. They work for stripers. I saw your post there, Ben. You were
all day
Clouser minnow.
Minnow.
So yeah, absolutely. You need lead. You need to get down. You need to mimic what the gear guys are doing with Neds and tubes. And then later in the year, if you're fishing fast moving water, there's nothing like topwater smallies. A big bomber, like the oversized salmon bombers, seem to be really good for me. And you can dead drift them. You can strip them fast. Don't worry if they get a little wet and they start getting under the surface. Sometimes that's even better. But if I only had two for the small water, two very simple flies, and those would be them.
Sink tip?
In the spring, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sink tip in the spring.
Yeah.
Well, while we're doing that, let's give every opportunity. Brian, when you're going up to the She in the spring, go-to bait?
Pardon?
Go-to bait if you're going to the Miramichi in May. What would you want to have tied on?
Flukes have been working good. Sand eels. Flukes are nice, though. Flukes are nice.
So yeah, flukes and sand eels.
Flukes
That's pretty much a 1-2 combo right there. You can't really go wrong with that.
Pretty well, yeah.
And Jeff, for gear fishing smallies in this time of year, what two baits would you go with?
Jerk bait, Berkeley stunner.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's
then
one.
you can use a Berkeley stunner if that doesn't work.
I gotcha. Jerk bait. Weirdest thing about that, what you just said, Jeff, is I was on a body of water for opener yesterday, and I was trying to find this one. Man, I threw jerkbait all day. I didn't even see one. That's the weirdest thing that's ever happened. I've never seen that happen, but it did yesterday, and I was like in shock. But it is what it is. Happens sometimes.
That's the thing about.
Sometimes they're on the bottom. Like if they're not hitting jerk baits and they're just a Ned rig or a tube, something that they're still down in the mud, face down, looking down. Like,
all right.
Yeah. I sent you a picture of your first experience in a couple of things. I sent you a picture of the Ned rig Muskie, and then your first experience in New Brunswick at Nakawik when we came down. We did.
Oh my God, that was years ago.
And we fished the Nakawik tournament, and we went up to Miramichi Striper Cup. And I said, if you don't catch 1,000 fish in the week you're here yourself. It'd be incredible.
Check and check. But now you're telling me there's gonna be over 200 boats this year, Jeff. My God, that's a lot of competition. Yeah. My personal best there so far has been a 6th place. I've been trying to best that since, and you're making it harder and harder.
Well, we are going with 4 flares this year. So first, second, like 10 minutes apart, and the weigh in is 10 minutes staggered because 250 boats and a shotgun start. Although it's an awesome looking thing, it's a little dangerous. So we've decided
if you have a 100 horsepower plus situation, I think you're okay. I feel for the guys that are just kind of floating there in the 9.9. I'm like,
Now, are you doing the waves based on the registration order?
Yeah, as you get registered, so 175. 76 to 150, 150 to 225, 225 to 300, and then the next day it flips.
I got a question, and I speak on behalf of all fly anglers. Okay, listen carefully. I saved this for the end of the show. So you've got a family thing, you've got an online thing, a month-long thing, you've got a kids thing, you have a kayak thing. Why not do a fly thing, fly-only competition?
Well, you can fly fish in any one of those categories.
No. Have a category for only on the fly.
How do you keep people honest?
It's definitely an idea, but it's what we've had. It's so funny how people we have to get disqualified because we catch them doing funny things, and it's amazing. Like I took all the money out of the kids division. Particularly because people were cheating. and they were teaching their children to cheat. And
Crazy.
it was a terrible. Like
I think we're gonna do it's just for bragging rights one. I think I'm gonna set one up. No, just for bragging rights, and maybe a little group just to do it, because I think there's a challenge in that. Matt, I'm sure you would agree. It's not the same. Well, it's hard for you to say, Matt. You haven't been to the She yet, but I mean, it is easier to catch it on the gear. There's no question about it.
Yeah, Brian didn't. We did a bit of fly fishing there last year when the spawn was on. We went up above.
Yeah, up above the Red Bank Bridge.
Up
there
above the Red Bank.
Did they take?
Yeah.
Did they take?
No.
No, that's because they're too busy doing something else.
No, they weren't there.
They weren't there.
They weren't there. No, I'm one of those guys. I barely get out of my chair unless I see them on the Garmin Live Scope, and they weren't there.
Fair enough.
Oh, God.
That's crazy. I mean, on the Stewiacke, from my experience, and I've done it all, like fish with bait when the season allows, and fish with lures and flies. And in the last 3 years, there's no doubt in my mind that flies take more fish in that river. I haven't figured it out, but I'm thinking it's just with dirty water, the current maybe just hangs in the zone longer. But at the same time, so on June 11th, you're allowed to use bait again. And 2 years ago, the fish were kind of late dropping out. There's still a lot of fish in the river. So, we usually take our table fish. We take one out of the river a year. We try to anyway. And I hooked 6 fish on fly and only 1 on bait. And I'm talking like you're looking at the screen, the sonar, and it's, they're under the boat. You're looking, it's like, okay, boys, there's like 1,000 fish down there. This should be easy. Let's drop the fresh bait. And I mean like the freshest possible bait you could. Gasco was caught that morning. And they would not touch that. You swing it through, boom, tighten up. You swing it through again, boom, tighten up. Okay, let's try the bait again. Drop it down. You could feel them swimming through it and hitting the line, but they just wouldn't touch it. And I haven't really figured it out. I'm really excited to go up to the Miramichi and see it all, because it's, to me, like,
we'll
when I'm
both,
listening to you guys,
we'll do both.
That doesn't work. Yeah, that's so different.
Yeah.
I mean, there's days where if you don't have a fly, your chances of hooking one on a lure are tough. And I know the day, like, if you throw the lure through a few times, if you don't get bumped through all those fish, I know right away. I'm like, this is going to be a tough day if you're not a fly.
I'm actually excited to see if I can show you the other bite that nobody talks about, which is the deep jigging bite for the stripers.
I would,
because there's a time where they're down there, the big schools are coming through, and they're in like 25 to 30. And I know that's something that's different that you might not have experienced yet. Jeff is nodding his head. He's like, yep, I know what it is. Yeah, so is Brian. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. But Donnie, I think it's that time. We got to start winding her down.
We could go all night. Very quickly, Jeff, there's a question there. Will the Striper Cup be televised, or any of the festivities, weigh-ins, anything of the Striper Cup be televised?
It's going to be broadcast live. This year we've hired a broadcast company, so I'm assuming it'll be on Facebook Live or something. But we've got a number of camera people set up, and we've hired That's why we didn't go to the Sportsman show. We spent that money on hiring a broadcasting company.
Very nice. So keep track. Keep your eye on Striper Cup social media, folks. So Jeff, I'm going to go around our guests real quick. If people want to know more about the Miramichi Striper Cup, where do they go? MiramichiStriperCup.ca. Get on it. Or check them out on Facebook. Brian Gray, Miramichi Sport Fishing. How do folks find you, my friend?
They can find me on Facebook, or they can go to MiramichiSportFishingInc.com. I got a website there, and you can reach out to me either way.
Okay. And Marlon, if people want that one fish, that muskie bite, they want to go fishing and they're not as worried about the catching, how do they find you?
Facebook's probably the best way. Just look me up, Marlon Prince. You can Google New Brunswick Muskie Guide. My website will pop up, and there's links to my Facebook or email and phone number there. And hey, my boat usually averages, just for the record, my boat usually averages.
I was going to ask that question.
Right? My boat usually averages 1 to 2 fish a day, usually 1.5 to 2. And that's average over the last 4 or 5 years, I've calculated. Sometimes you go 15, 16 hours without a bite, and then you get 2, 3 in a row, right? Mm-hmm. That's the muskie game. There's big rewards, right? It's high stakes poker. It's high risk, high reward. And like I say, I can cater trips to to whatever people like. If you want to split the day and do some smallmouth, pickerel, I do trout, salmon, all that in the seasons around Muskie as well. So
what's your average when you're fly fishing only?
No.
So
when you're just throwing flies, what's the average?
I will fish however you're never going to tell any fish how it's going to eat, right? Especially a muskie. You're never going to tell him how to eat. So that's what's tough about fly. If you want to book a fly trip, I will cater to your needs, and I will recommend the best time of year. I will recommend the best water, and we'll stack the odds in our favor, right? If you're just one of those guys that's diehard set on fly and you can only get out on a certain date, things are certainly tougher because you're trying to tell the hardest fish to catch how it's going to eat that day. You know, it's fishing, you never know, but that's my approach, right? And I'll just try and put everything in our favor. You know, it's just like stripers, like you were saying, there's a time for bait that it's probably going to work best. There's a time for topwater. You know, those bites are just smaller, and there's a lot in common. I hear all this talk about the stripers. The reward is just more fish with stripers, and it's one fish or a couple fish with muskies, right? I know striper fishing is not just go out and catch them easily. You got to put in that work. You got to figure out what stripers move like crazy. They can move 20 kilometers if they want in over a week. So I know you guys do that work. You guys have to grind for them sometimes. It's just when we get into them, it's one or two fish. When you guys get into them, it's a pile of fish.
Well, and I'm just going to comment on that last comment, Marlon. I guess it depends on what you're looking for. If you go to, use the She for example. You want to just hook fish, and you don't care if it's a schoolie or a decent one. That's fine. For me, I'm not looking for those. I'm looking for mama. I've got 2 39.5-inch fish on the She. 2. Both times I thought I broke 40, and both times I was severely disappointed. So I got 2 things going on. Number 1, I'm going to Stewie to break 40. Matt promised. That's number 1. Number 2, I'm still on the hunt, and I hope to catch it during the Cup this year. That would be phenomenal. I don't care how I place. If I can break a 40 when it counts, I mean, that is it for me. And you're right. Like you said, it all depends on what you're looking for and what you want to do. I expressed my new passion for fly fishing. I want to apply it to stripers, but even on gear fishing, I'm not looking for the big schools of fish. I'm looking for Mamacita all alone.
I say it like this. People ask me, they look at me and you're trout fishing right now, and they see these giant flies I'm using. And I say, yeah, but I said, you're going to catch way more trout than I am. But I said, we're going to talk about the trout I do catch this spring or this week. We're going to talk about it around the fire for a few years, right? Those.
What is Jeff trying to show here? Hold on, man. What are you showing, Jeff?
That's 41. That's last year.
I know that picture. It haunts me.
That's last year's winning fish at the Striper Cup, 41 inches.
Look at the size of the head on that fish. That's just now on the fly. That's those stuff his dreams are made of. Anyhow.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's once again, whether it's muskie or smallmouth or striper, or chain pickerel or white perch or trout. There's just so much here, folks. Get out, explore, call Marlon, call Brian, register for the Striper Cup. If it doesn't matter if you have a boat, they have a division that fits your setup, your needs. Just get out and explore. We have so much here in our backyard. We take it for granted every day. And I don't know what else to say.
No, that's it. You wrapped it up right there. That's
so
it.
As Andrew Chandler says it on here, send it, strip it, and you can't stop.
Yeah, well said, Andrew. Well said.
So,
all right,
ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank our guests, Marlon Prince, Jeff Wilson, Brian Gray. Thank you for being on the show. Hope you guys got a chance to check the episodes on Wild TV. It's the Miramichi second season Stripers. And don't forget to look up River. So if you haven't had a chance yet, check them out on the Wild TV app. And I believe they're both on our YouTube channel now as well. If you haven't had a chance to have a peek.
There's only one episode left to put on the YouTube channel, and that's going to be this weekend.
That's coming up this weekend. And that's our adventures in Cape Breton. We'll be back here in 2 weeks' time. unless something goes sideways. That happens every now and then, folks. We don't run a hard line, dedicated schedule where we enjoy doing this. But if we can't get the right guests on, we're going to wait for the right guests. And tonight we definitely had them, and we'll make sure we have them for the next one. So keep an eye out. In about 2 weeks' time, we'll be back recapping another 2 shows. Get that under our belt before Striper Cup week, because I am not doing a show that week.
No, we'll be busy.
And guys, hope to see you all on the water very, very soon. So Marlon, Brian, Jeff, thank you for joining us tonight. And on behalf of Ben Wu, Matt Zito, and myself, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Fish East Live. My name's Don Patterson. Fish on and fish east.
We'll do the things we love again. We'll hang out with friends. We'll put our screens away and be amazed by what's been waiting for us. We'll dance and eat and laugh again. We'll look in our own backyard and find that it is full of wonders. There will be adventures and art. We will stand in the sunshine and we will be free. Where will you go first?